My wife mocked me before leaving for my estranged brother, but just 2 months later she was at my door, furious that I never warned her about his past. I'm 24, male. My brother, Louis, male 30, has been out of the picture for the last 5 years. I don't really want to get into details, but he was always a bad egg. My mom and dad tried to put him on the right path, but he systematically took advantage of their forgiveness by emotionally manipulating them every time he screwed up. It took a long time for my parents to accept that Louis was beyond any redemption, and they finally cut him off when he stole a family heirloom to pay for his and his then-girlfriend's drug-fueled vacation. Since then, he's been floating around the country doing God knows what. I have always been the polar opposite of my brother personality-wise. Some would say I'm boring, and maybe I am. I was never a party hound, I don't drink a lot, and all my hobbies are kind of low energy. I'm also an introvert with a really low social battery. Of course, I don't care about what people think about me, and I'm not exactly looking to change my personality, but it had started affecting my wife, Barbara, female, 25. Bob and I met online and shared a lot of common interests. We bonded over things like Lego, reading, and our love of music. Honestly, it was crazy how compatible we were. I had dated people before her, but it was always a clash of personalities and never seemed to work out. With Bob, things just felt right. We got married just last year and have been dating for 2 years. After our marriage, though, my wife's personality has slowly changed, and she's a lot more outgoing than before. Now, before you all start making assumptions, I do not think this is a bad thing. People's personalities evolve, and people change over time. So it's only fair that my wife would not stay the same person for our entire marriage. It would be weird if she did. As for the problem of personality clashes, obviously that happened with less serious relationships, but I was willing to put in the work to change for my wife. She was getting into clubbing, going out to parties, and stuff like that. Initially, I tried to accompany her and get into it, but it was just too exhausting for me. I was open about my feelings, and the both of us talked it out. We decided that it's okay to have separate activities, and it's just a part of the relationship evolving. I won't lie, before this we were super clingy and did everything together, but that also worked well for us. So from that point onwards, my wife and I spent a little more me time than together time. When she would go out clubbing, I would work on my models or hang out with my friends on Discord. I would love to say that our communication helped us form an even stronger bond, but unfortunately no. Bob didn't just have me time, she had nothing but that. I barely got to see her except at night and in the morning. Both of us were busy with work during the day, and I was the only one putting in effort to have date nights or do things together, which both of us thought were fun. Barb would come for these dates, but it always felt like she was tagging along and would prefer spending the night dancing out on the floor with her girlfriends. The relationship was slowly dying, and I felt like it would have to end unless I saw more effort from my wife. I sat her down and offered her an ultimatum, that she would have to work on our relationship or we should split up. The confrontation went nothing as I imagined, because Bob just looked at me with a blank face while I was pouring my heart out, and when I was done she just laughed without missing a beat. She said, "Let's break up, I don't care." I was devastated, and when I pushed her on it, Bob told me the real reason she had given up on our relationship. She had been seeing someone else. A new DJ had been at the club she frequented over the past month, and they had quickly been attracted to each other. She said that he was exactly like me, but not boring. You can imagine what that was like to hear. She left the house. I served her divorce papers, and the proceedings are currently ongoing. She didn't really fight the divorce or ask for any alimony, so that was a silver lining, I guess. For the next 2 months, I was a train wreck. My friends were super worried about my well-being because I had just sunk into myself. I wouldn't chat with anyone or even go out of the house. I was just insecure about my personality, my role as a husband, and whether anyone even loved me. Of course, that all sounds super melodramatic, but it was my first serious relationship, and it ended up with my humiliation. I wanted nothing to do with Barbara, but I couldn't stop myself from checking out her social media. It was a bad habit, I know. She was already posting pics with this new guy, and he looked surprisingly familiar. I wasn't 100% sure, but it seemed like she had begun dating my brother. He looked a lot worse than when he left, and I wasn't sure that it was him. I decided to ask my mom about it because I had a sneaking suspicion that she kept in touch with Louis and sent him money now and then. It was tougher on her than it was on Dad, and he's still processing the whole thing, so imagine that. When I show my mom the pictures, she almost got hysteric and apologized for hurting me. When I asked her, "Mama, what's the matter?" she told me that she knew Louis was in town. He had come to borrow money from my mom, and after that ended up moving into a crappy apartment someplace close by. Mom sometimes snuck away to visit him and would see that he was still living a bad life, but she gave him money, food, and whatever she could muster. He barely told her anything and, to be honest, only saw her as a piggy bank, but she did know that he had started seeing someone new. Of course, when she put two and two together, it became obvious that someone was my wife. I reassured her that she didn't know and in no way facilitated the shitty end to my relationship, since it was coming to a close anyways. I did keep in touch with Bob purely for matters related to the divorce, but now I began to feel like I should ask her to stay away from Lewis. I knew what he was like, and I was certain he was going to screw with her in some way. I was petty enough to let that happen, but it also felt like Barbara would take it as me trying to impede her relationship. To test the waters, I texted her and said that I had found out that the guy she was dating was my estranged brother. That's it. She replied with, "Oh lol, that's why he's like a better version of you." That response alone made me sure I shouldn't tell her about why he was estranged, and I put it to the back of my mind. My mental health was more important. Of course, I ended up being right about that because she showed up at my doorstep, ugly crying, just 2 days later. She wanted to suss out whether I had a way of contacting Lewis because he had stolen all of her money and skipped town. I told her that I'll get his number from my mom and told her she could come to spend the night on the couch if she needed it. When we were talking, the story of why Lewis was estranged came out, and she got really angry at me for not telling her the full story. I'm usually a cool and composed person, but I blew up at her. I went off about how terrible she was. I don't think she expected that, and eventually, I kicked her out. I know that Barbara is facing a crisis right now, and some part of me thinks that I should have warned her regardless, because at least then she wouldn't be as shocked about what happened. I know she wouldn't have heeded my warning, but at least I would have warned her. Tia. Update 1, so my mom gave Barbara Lewis's number, but he's obviously not picking up anybody's calls. It's impossible to know where he is or what he's doing. In the meanwhile, my soon-to-be ex-wife is suddenly remorseful, wants another shot at fixing things. I will admit, some part of me wants to slip back into the comfort of a committed relationship, and I feel like if I hadn't made this post, that's what would have ended up happening. Thankfully, the comments here have made me feel really supported and validated my self-worth, so I won't give in to the urge. I will have a conversation with Bob where I let her know that I'm not going to give her a second chance and that she should stop asking for one. Update 2, I put my foot down with Bob, and she's having a full-on breakdown. It's clear what her reason was for trying to get back with me money. After Lewis drained her bank account, she can't pay her rent, bills, and anything. I told her that it isn't my problem, and now she's threatening to make the divorce a lot messier in her demands for alimony. I'd be worried if she hadn't shot herself in the foot by being so passive about the divorce in the first place. I said, "You can go ahead and try, but unless the judge orders it, I won't send you a single penny." Update 3. As you may have guessed, I am not required to pay Barb a single penny, but my mom is feeling super guilty about the position Lewis put Barb in, and she's offered to help her out with money until she finds a way to save up. I honestly don't agree with this because I think I've built up a lot of anger towards Bob, but it's her choice at the end of the day, is purely financial, and at least my mom isn't supporting or condoning her actions. NTA. I think that's pretty obvious. My bigger issue is with your mom, though. If you say she's not condoning it, why isn't she letting Bob face the consequences of her actions? I get that she feels guilty and obligated, but I feel like your mom is too soft. That's how Louis got money out of her, too. NTA. I'm glad you stuck up for yourself and didn't take her back, man. My wife and I have been married for 10 years and we also grew into different hobbies and interests, but I'd say it's made our love stronger. For you and Bob, it just feels like you deserve better. Next story, my ex-wife and I have been separated for 5 years and have an 8-year-old son together, and she got remarried last year. I tried to be very intentional of the time I spent with my son. Over the last year and a half, we've gone on 4 big trips traveling to Nicaragua, Vietnam, Alaska, Colombia, as well as lots of smaller trips around the U.S., visiting cities, camping, and doing various outdoor activities. I love to take photos and well document our trips, however, I don't have any social media to share the photos on, and will send family and my ex some of the photos over email. My son also likes to draw and journal our trips. I feel sad that my ex-wife misses out on half of this life, especially when he's getting so many new experiences. I decided to put together a photo album of the last year and half featuring photos of our son. Photos he took, other relevant photos. Photocopies of some of our son's drawings, as well as notes he made about various things. Asan helped me make it, and my son gave it to her for her birthday last week. When he gave it to her, he must have told her it was from me, as well as she texted me to thank me and said she loved it. Her husband was less than pleased and sent me messages telling me it was inappropriate and creepy to give it to her as a gift. He also accused me of trying to win her back. I'm not. I have a girlfriend when I just wanted her to have something that gives her a glimpse of the moment she's missing out on with our son. My stepsisters agree with her husband, and it was a little weird I gave her an intimate gift, but I don't view it that way. Atia? NTA. Most of the comments have covered all these bases perfectly, but the only thing I would like to add is that I find it somewhat concerning that her husband is contacting you at all. In co-parenting arrangements, it's usually best to keep the discussions between the actual parents. As valuable as step-parents can be, they should not interfere in the co-parent relationship. They also need to understand that the child's needs for stable relationships with his parents do not end when there is a divorce or marriage. Kids thrive best when divorced parents get along, and step-parents are supportive of that. I'm curious if this is the first issue that has come up. If so, and that would surprise me. There should be a tactful discussion with your ex-wife about this situation, and you can look for ways to try to mitigate the new spouse's insecurity before things get worse. NTA. This was a very thoughtful gift that you and your son put together to help share his experiences with his mom. Her new husband sounds like an insecure and immature person that is obviously frightened by the bond with your son and good co-parenting relationship with your ex-wife. There was nothing intimate about the gift. You may want to share the text from the new husband with X so that she knows what is going on. Eventually, she will have to deal with it. The stepsisters need to just keep their comments and opinions to themselves. Next story. I, 35, female, and chronically ill and going through the process of a kidney and pancreas transplant. Currently, I don't use Facebook much, but all my extended family, friends from high school and college, etc. use it. There's been a lot going on with my health, and everyone's been hounding me for updates. I found the easiest way to update people, and since my profile is private, is to just post there as I go through the transplant journey. After my latest appointment with the transplant team, it was a lot of information, so I made a fairly long post about it. My husband, 34 male, has 3 younger half-siblings from his mom's second marriage. The oldest, Jane, 20, is autistic, but is pretty mature for her age, studying to become a doctor in a good university. Although we aren't super close, we've known each other for 15 years, and I even used to babysit her and her younger 2 siblings. We've never had an actual fight in all these years, but as hard as I've tried to have a relationship with her and the others, they have always made it very difficult to connect. Maybe that has to do with my husband being the black sheep of the family, and they see me as an extension of him. I've tried very hard to reach out to them and spend time with them, family gatherings, just to be treated like I'm not really welcome in the family. His parents, mom and dad, on the other hand, are generally very supportive and loving. I still continue to send birthday cards and text them to see how they're doing, and 90% of the time get no response. I'll be lying if I said that it didn't hurt a little that they ice me out so much, but I know you can't force people to have a relationship with you. So last night, after my long update about my upcoming surgeries, Jane commented on my post. It's very unusual for her to use Facebook, so I was eager to see it. When I saw her comment, it said, "Yeah, not going to read that, all happy for you," or "Sorry that happened, I don't really care." I was very hurt and thought that was a really nasty thing to say to someone sharing something so important and sensitive. I told my husband, and he admitted he told her via text that it was fine to post when I was hurt by it. He called me a snowflake and told me she's autistic so she doesn't get social norms, and why that was rude. I told him being neurodivergent doesn't give her license to be mean. We got in a huge fight, and he went to bed early. AITA. I didn't even say anything to her, just quietly removed her from my friend list, and she's obviously not going to want to see my future updates. Edit. My husband came home from work with flowers and apologies. He said he fought all day about how it had hurt my feelings, and that wasn't his intention. Apparently, he was sent an image of the meme from her when he okayed it, thinking that since I have a twisted sense of humor usually that I might get a chuckle and move on. He said he saw it as a nice being, that she was reaching out to me at all, and took it as her trying to lighten the mood and make me laugh. She did not send me the meme, but rather typed out the word "so." I had no reference of it being a meme, which would have taken some of the sting out. I would have thought it was just a joke in poor taste, but not a personal insult. Once he saw the comment written out that way, he understood my perspective and realized he messed up. He asked me to please still consider she didn't mean it that way, and not blame her, as he was the one that told her it wouldn't hurt me. Some of you asked if he usually puts me down or treats me poorly, and the answer is a resounding no. We are not headed for divorce, and he does have real remorse. He's been my rock and my advocate with my health for a very long time, and we make a good team. This was very uncharacteristic of him, which is why I wanted others' opinions. When my health suffers, I can be overly sensitive, and as a neurotypical person, I didn't know if maybe I was really being too hard on her. It seems it was poor judgment on his part, and maybe some miscommunication on hers for the way she presented it. Others asked what her mom, my mother-in-law, thought, and I don't know, as I didn't go to her about it, and she's not very active on Facebook, so I doubt she saw the comment before I deleted it. The consensus is clear that I'm not alone in thinking that she needs to learn some better people skills, compassion beside manners if she becomes a doctor. I think the best thing is for me to just reach out to her and explain why it came across as unkind, and not let people continue to make the excuse about her autism. That's not doing her any favors, and she's bright with a lot of potential. I'm always proud of her accomplishments and want to see her follow her dream and become a great doctor one day. Thanks everyone for your perspectives. NTA, she was definitely the a-hole. It costs nothing for her to not say anything hurtful. She went out of her way to write that and even reached out to her brother. If it's okay to me, it indicates that she recognizes it might be rude. I'm sorry that your husband was callous about it. You are not a snowflake. Your feelings are valid. He too is an a-hole.